Well, folks, here we are at a reading for Hawk Whippoorwill, hosted by Pen Anvil Press, and we're going to begin with Abhay Kumar in just a second.
Based in Brasilia, the capital city of Brazil, and I have been writing poetry since more than a decade now, and I mostly write about places. My latest book is about Brasilia. It's called The Prophecy of Brasilia. It talks about, it's sort of a it creates urban legends about Brasilia. I've been there since 2.5 years, and I thought that I would turn the city. I would create my own legends. So it's sort of looking at the city in my own way. So I think a degree of, but the limitation of place poetry is that you need to have a degree of familiarity with that place, so that you see how it is molded and transformed in literature, and how far removed it is from reality. So I'll read one poem. It's called Brasilia, and so between parallels 15 and 20, around a lake which shall be formed, a great civilization will thrive, and that will be the promised land. It's a prophecy by Dom Bosco, a saint who dreamed about Brasilia. Brasilia is mostly white. Brasilia is red laterite. Brasilia is diaphanous gossamer filled with light. Brasilia is a string of shining pearls at night. Brasilia is an exotic Turkish delight. Brasilia is a coiled serpent ready to bite. Brasilia is a village passing as a city. Brasilia is an expression in supernatural geometry. Brasilia is Italo Calvino's invisible city. Brasilia is a prophecy of dawn. Brasilia is a poem carved in stone. Brasilia is a song of Carlos Drummond. Brasilia is a diamond in the crown. Brasilia is a giant airplane on the ground. Brasilia is an Amori village drowned. Brasilia is Clarice Lispector's sleep water. Brasilia.
Somebody lost some keys. Did anybody happen to see them in here? I'm sorry to bother you, but it's very important. Okay, thank you.
Brasilia is Clarice Lispector sleepwalking on water. Brasilia is black acai palm dessert. Brasilia is perfection in brick and mortar. Brasilia is a piece of space cake. Brasilia is a fantasy island in the lake. Brasilia is a Dominican nightshade. Brasilia is the last utopia. Brasilia is Sylvia Plath's dystopia. Brasilia is a landscape ectopia. Brasilia is an oasis of migratory birds. Brasilia is an oracle's prophetic words. Brasilia is a page from Harry Potter. Brasilia is a shifting mirage in the desert. Brasilia is a vision gone pale, blurred. Brasilia is a nail yet to be hammered. I'll take you to the neighboring country of Brazil, that is Argentina, and it's this is capital. So it's a poem called Looking for Borges in Buenos Aires. I know of one Greek labyrinth, which is a single straight line. Along that line, so many philosophers have lost themselves. Borges. Looking for Borges, I came to Buenos Aires. I found him nowhere. I searched all the libraries, all the labyrinthine streets of the city. He was not even at La Recoleta. I found merely a mirror and a face staring at me in disbelief. It's hard to believe. Everyone told me Borges lived in Argentina. Then back to New York. So I was in New York last year in January, and I was fascinated by Lorca's his book called A Poet in New York, and I was imagining how did he feel when he was in the city, and then I tried to write a poem about there is something called duende. Are you familiar with this thing, duende? So I think duende has very strong cultural connotation in the Spanish world, and I wrote a poem, and the title is Lorca and I in New York. I feel happy here. The sky is gloomy. It's freezing outside. High-rise concrete buildings. Not a single tree around. I am warm. Lying in room 1512 at the Park Central. I feel at home. New York's cold yellowish bricks feel warm. Pedestrians appear walled with menaced strangers. I smile and want them to smile back. Trees in Central Park have shed their leaves, and a flock of blackbirds sit over them, forming canopies. The sun is not back yet from the New Year holidays, yet I feel warm. I see a shadow, an apparition. It must be Lorca, I feel intuitively, who walked once in these streets. I follow him, his duende, towards Columbia University. He takes unexpected turns. I keep following him. he stops and asks me to walk with him across Brooklyn Bridge. We look at the river, still not frozen, and walk towards United Nations. I'm curious what Lorca would say at the UNGA rostrum. He stands firm, and I lend him my ears. I can't make out what he says. It's pure poetry, not a politician's speech. Lorca speaks in figures, not words. I clap alone. No one else is here. We walk out looking at the knotted gun and laugh. In Lower Manhattan, at Poets' House, we hear contemporary poets. Lorca whispers in my ears. Where is poetry? Is it lost in prose? Or in rap? Or in soulful lyrics of the tambourine man? In the great American song tradition? We decide to go to Broadway to watch a play. We leave it in the middle and get into a yellow taxi. The driver Mandeep tells us how he came from Jalandhar to New York 17 years ago and never returned to India fearing arranged marriage. But his worst fears came true. Lorca himself had been through this before he left the shores of Spain for New York to forget his bitter love. He whispered in my ears, I might have tried arranged marriage myself had they not killed me in cold blood. There is another poem about one of my favorite poets from Chile. You all know him. Neruda, yes. And here is the poem. What did my father say when I showed him my first poem? What did the Pariya Tamil girl say, whom I thought to be a 1,000-year-old goddess? I raved. It was the coming together of a man and a statue. What did my ailing daughter say before she died aged 8 in Nazi-occupied Netherlands? Did I hear her voice coming from across the ocean? What did the dissident poet say in freezing Siberian gulags listening to my ode to the Kremlin Highlander? What did the doctor say before injecting my stomach at the Santiago hospital? I died 6.5 hours later. Now that I have been exhumed, I'm trying to remember. I don't know if you have been to Colombia, but in Colombia there's an artist called Botero, and you might have seen his sculptures, some of you. But if you have not seen, please look at them. And so these are poems from my travels in Latin America, and I'll take you shortly to Nepal, from where this poem Mustan comes. But before that, let me introduce violence due to Botero's women. Botero's women are bare, colossal, delights, exaggerated, flaunting, ginormous, hyperbole, inflated, jumbles, Kafkaesque, lustful, mythical, nudes out of proportion, Quetzal-like resplendent, satirical, towering, urgent, voluptuous, whimsical, Xeroxed, zoomorphic, but not fat. So, this is a poem about a cremation ground where Hindus are cremated in Kathmandu. Well, Arya Ghat. I'm the last destination of life's journey on earth. Yet no one comes to me walking on one's feet. I know no pleasures but burning, cold, dead bodies, turning into ash, returning to their elements, freeing from earthly sufferings. All I hear shrieks and laments, mournful men, wailing women, and crestfallen children. I see faces immersed in tears, rarely a smile to appreciate my thankless duty. There's this festival called Gai Jatra, which means parade of the cows. Painted cows and children parade down the streets, assisting their ancestors in a journey to the netherworld. A queen carries her dead son in her arms. It's a poem about Siddhartha, who became Buddha later after enlightenment. I must have been cruel to turn my face from my young wife, my newborn, longing for my lullabies. I secretly fled at night without goodbyes, riding my beloved horse who died exhausted at dawn. When I look back at the forlorn fort of Tilara Kot and desolate gardens of Lumbini, I wonder what I have done. Migrant worker from Nepal. I have returned home, packed in a plywood coffin, measuring 4 by 8 feet. My passport confiscated on arrival. I lived in a shack with a dozen others, worked without relief in sweltering desert heat, my heart aching for home. When I could bear no more, I jumped off the 10th floor. Maybe some poems about Delhi. How much time I have?
Careful, careful.
So I'll read a poem about one of Delhi's very well-known poets, Mirza Ghalib. He was a legend in his own time. Let's see what happens to poets. Beware what happens to poets. Ghalib. And I start with a couplet which is inscribed on his grave, or tomb. न था कुछ तो खुदा था, न होता कुछ तो खुदा होता, डुबोया मुझको होने में, न मैं होता तो क्या होता. When there was nothing, there was God. If there was nothing, there would have been God. Being has ruined me. If I did not exist, what would have been? Months of journey on bullock cart, Aliki, boat, Tanga, Ekka, and whatnot, Delhi, Kanpur, Lucknow, Allahabad, Banaras, Banda, Patna, Murshidabad, finally Calcutta, then an endless wait to petition Lord Amherst. Double my paltry pension of ₹62. I returned to Shahjahanabad, scorned, derided, my family debt-ridden, my dignity robbed. My brother died in my arms. None of my sons survived. I turned into stone, wrapped in human skin. Then came the worst, the massacre of Delhi. My friends were butchered. I alone survived to take down their corpses hanging from the trees, lampposts, to usher them into their graves, to lament my destiny. Maybe a poem about rivers and trees, because we are reading from
Thematic folks.
about parks, why not? Nehru Park, some fun poems. Flames of crimson, blue moon in full bloom, birds transmuting into humans, rocks permeated with love, Nehru in dialogue with Lenin and the universe. Have you seen auto rickshaws of Delhi? We have a river in Delhi like Charles River here, called Yamuna. I don't know if you have written a poem about Charles River, but this is a poem about Yamuna. I'll see if I can write about Charles River, but I think you should do that. The drawn and sulky, I flow past Delhi like dark silver, caressing the city shores, draining darkness from Delhi's soul. called Meek. Under my ubiquitous shade lie scattered cities of Delhi. Delhi and I are one and the same. My yellow-green fruits, delicious when ripe, bitter when raw. Only the wise know the difference. I think a poem about bureaucrats should be interesting. Everywhere, they are everywhere. Cornered in cramped cloisters, loaded with dusty files, subordinated with conduct rules, tamed with annual appraisals. We bureaucrats shine outside, inside, incarcerated inmates, ever seeking atonement. Delhi as I am. I am the city of cities, a city of invaders, conquerors, merchants, immigrants. The twinkle on my horizon, appearing, disappearing, as words written on a palimpsest. I'm the city of ruins. O mighty and powerful, look carefully at my mausoleums, cemeteries, tombs. Count them all if you can. How many lie buried here who ruled me once? I'm the city of Satya, Shanti, and Nyaya. My streets bear these names. But the truth is, rapists roam my streets in peace, and my women perpetually seek justice in one of the city courts.
So then is a good segue into
Yes.
the theme of Buddha might be a good segue into.
Theme of
Yeah. I mean, if you'd like to read about that.
yes.
You don't have to do it from the front side. You have options. Welcome. I think you were the second from there.
I see. And this is most time you have read already. It's a far, far away place in Nepal. So you need a special permit to visit that place. Very one. A piece of moon rests on the earth, baked for centuries. Shadows of yak herds crawl like ants on a blinding canvas of snow, seeking ever-receding meadows, the brooks of life. The last yak herder of day silently follows them into oblivion.
Who else is that?
It's me.
It's you. Who is you?
I make illustrations. All of them.
Great.
Everything.
For her.
See me afterwards for a chatbook. I don't have quite as many poems listed to because I'm an old babe, but I'm pretty short and not long. Alright, I'll get to it. Premonition. Your velvet antlers will grow sharp come spring. You lap the milk that pools between my ribs, in the hollows there, and I gaze at you with fawn eyes, dark and bright, swimming in arms. Evergreen branches drip with snow, and I with dread. Wet-eyed, you prune the overgrowth that trickles from my belly, tucking it safe within my bloom. chest swollen, unconsulted, rocking against you. Thank you. The glare of the sun in your eyes casts a soft, sleepy sadness, glowing like a hand raised to light. Hair like wet moss, the boy who came in from the storm. Parched, I suck the roots, I pull and pull and pull. I seize your arms and hold you still. It was a feeling I had when I was alone, different, wanting. You caress with tendril fingers, wanting me too. But in this moment, how could I be thinking of anything else? Darling, help me to love what is good. This is a little baby poem. When you were younger, did you ever spend full days at the beach, riding home, waning sunlight, washing sand off in the shower, wrapped in layers on a cool night, sun-reddened, crusty liquid? You could feel it then, the ghost of the ocean rocking you, carrying you, limp, vulnerable, the pulse of you beneath me. To Odysseus, you left me here, a bleating lamb. For 20 years I waited, wove and unraveled, tightening the shroud of myself against hosts of suitors who would have gladly taken your place. I knew you were alive. The red thread tangled about our fingers would have surely been cut by the sword that had taken your life, or by the gnawing of fishes at the bottom of the sea. Had I known your infidelity, I'd have cut it sooner. You thought it wouldn't reach me. Blood in your wake, you thought the deaths of your men and of my suitors would seal your consorts safe in the past. No witnesses, no evidence. But for the first time, your sharp tongue betrayed you that night after your return. As the red fingers of dawn grasped at the horizon, you called her name, Calypso. I saw your face fall and rise again like an actor returning to the stage with a different mask. I convinced myself you didn't mean to, that it had been 20 years, perhaps you thought I had died as I had wondered if you had. But I couldn't convince myself. I knew under it all. I was the good wife, waiting until the end of time for you. But you could not wait for me, you slave to your loins. But I am not your Argus. I am no bitch loyal to her last breath. I am your wife. I waited for you, and you did not have the mind to wait for me. I am the good wife, and my son will not suffer under a weak father. You live in fire, you die in fire. This parchment burns with you. It will blacken and crumple as my heart did. When you sail across the river of the underworld for a second time, remember how the hope of soldiers became the hope of women, the hope of wives and lovers left behind.
Not demanding wife at all.
Whoa!
You don't like Odysseus and stuff. Hi, I'm Blake Campbell. I just wanted to say thank you to Zach for inviting me to read at this event. And I have not been published in Hawk Whippoorwill, but I do have a few poems upcoming in Chapbooks by the Pen Anvil Press. So the first one I'm going to share is called Crane Beach. It's going to be in the Poems for Plovers chapbook. And it's funny because when I saw the posting about it, I was like, oh, I have a ton of poems about plovers, because I walk around New England coast a lot and I see a lot of plovers. So this is a poem that has in it, and it's set at Crane Beach in Ipswich, Massachusetts. On the beach, the sandy wind falls and rises in the thin ranks of grass that crown the dunes, where the piping plover croons, and its efforts inexact, fashioning a venti fact from this cloudy shard of quartz, billowing our shirts and shorts as it blows in from the sea. Mime, you're putting up with me, and my putting up with you. Though the wind may chill us through, edges soften in its surge, where the sea and sand converge, and the sand's corrosive sting leaves behind a polished thing. And the next poem is an older one called Bioluminescence, which is, I'm sure a lot of people in this room know what that is, but it's when living organisms generate their own light, like fireflies or different kinds of invertebrates in the ocean. And this is specifically about a system of caves in New Zealand that have maggots living on the ceiling that generate their own light, and I talk about them in the poem. Bioluminescence. And he entered, great spelunker, the resonant and ancient darkness, that empty ventricle keeping the earth's heart beating with the silent calls of bats, their acrid guano blanketing the cold stone floor. Such hollowness, so far beneath the surface, and yet the sunlit world still stepping to more infectious rhythms up above, never once tempted him with its pulsations. That was a land of travel, and light so bright, it blotted out the rarer glows he sought. On he walked, no flashlight in his hand. He closed his eyes, preferring a darkness of his own to the black of that slick gullet, the cave he could not stop from swallowing him. Soon he reached the room where glowworms dangled sticky threads to catch unwary insects. They taunted his shut eyes with hints of incandescence. He shivered in the dampness of that space, but in the end it was easy for him to slide his eyes awake in the dark and empty cavern and count the living stars upon the walls.
And the best part is that you remember.
Thanks. I have one more for you. This is a return to the New England coast from the caves of New Zealand. This is called Drake's Island, and it's about a place that I frequented in Maine last year. It's also got a little cameo from our friend the plumber. So, and there's this reference in the poem to eiders and eclipse. Eiders are a really beautiful sea duck that we have off the coast of New Zealand, and when they're in eclipse, it means they're changing their breeding plumage to the drabber plumage that they wear during the winter. So, Drake's Island. The unexpected sunshine, harsh against the foliage of the breaks. The sea breeze tempers as it makes the aspens whisper from the marsh. The sea speaks too, with weathered lips, inviting plovers, lovers here, the loons that plunge and reappear, and pairs of eiders in eclipse. The cormorants, the fishermen, the dunlins spooked when kayaks pass, the harrier that leaves the grass with empty claws to try again, while flocks of gulls advance and flee and bicker through the breakers' noise, and through the splashing of the boys who throw themselves against the sea. I cannot count myself as one, but any envy ebbs and dulls. I walk the jetty where the gulls have dashed their catches on the stone, and turning from the bather's fray, from jagged rock and shattered shell, I watch a seal break from a swell and take a peek and swim away, and sink again without concern to meet the ocean's hard embrace, as I must leave this sacred place that does not ask me to return. Thank you.
Next up.
My name's Meek. Thanks for inviting me.
Was that Spike?
Spy Ponds, which is a pond in Arlington. I'll read one poem from this. It's called Frost Country, and it takes place in Vermont, Middlebury, Vermont. There was a frost house and a lot of frost paraphernalia. And there's a writer's workshop there called Bread Loaf. From Bread Loaf, I jogged downhill towards town. I passed Wayside, site of the cabin where Frost spent summers writing poems. It's a stone's throw from the Frost house on Frost Road. There, a yellow bus unloads middle school kids. I imagine the clouds shape the old poet's craggy head, cusp of a smile on his puffy face. Then I see a sign for the Frost Interpretive Trail. I weave through the parking lot past a Camry and a minivan. On the trail, poems on plaques interspersed with verses carved in wood. Caught between delight and wisdom, I hesitate at the fork for the road not taken. Then I realize it's a loop. It doesn't make any difference which path you choose. You end up back in the parking lot with the Camry and the minivan. All right, and this is a poem Sept down the Cape, on the outer Cape in August, and it also has some bioluminescence. And, 100 miles south of Boston, where the Cape curls up like a dog's tail, a gazillion stars redefine the night. We've stepped out onto the porch to search for falling stars, which aren't stars at all, but meteorites, white streaks of cosmic dust flaming out like dreams at dawn. In August, they announced the coming end of summer. Meanwhile, in the garden, fireflies surprise us with their ethereal presence in the miracle of bioluminescence. Maybe it's the timing that makes us savor these sacred gifts. And one more poem. This one was set in Somerville. I live in Somerville in the winter. In the dead of winter in Somerville. Underneath the street, beside the tracks, between the trains, an Asian woman, all angles, few curves, inserts her violin between her chin and collarbone and launches into Painted Black by the Rolling Stones that morphs into some wild jazz blues fusion and draws a crowd with raised eyebrows and unexpected smiles. We toss dollar bills into the worn case at her feet. When the train roars in, she stops and bows and we clap. Do you have a CD, someone calls? She shakes her head. She is much older than I thought. Her roots are gray. I step onto the train, wondering how many years it took to reach that plateau of facility with bow and strings. How many others, artists, musicians, poets, wear the cloak of anonymity.
I guess it's me next.
Alright,
No,
I'll go.
Okay. No, I wasn't sure who was reading it.
So I also wanted to read something on theme to celebrate H&W. Sara Afshar, sorry about that. And thank you for having me. The con is I didn't really finish it. The pro is you can all help me.
Yay.
So don't be shy after. Give me all your best ideas. So here we are. Birthday wishes, Blue Hill at Stone Barns. The rain is rich on my head. The smell of slop corrects my steps. On foot, I've gone wrong at the pitchfork. The farm roads are lilaced, honeyed, and tomorrow I turn 30. I turn around, take the right time. I am here to celebrate, to seek the pigs, fat and hungry. I meditate as they forage in the soil and airy. I thank a pig for all that grows. I ask it, Have I been so helpful even while I eat? The bees have, and I will be just 30. The crocuses alongside drip for bees. They drip for me. I imagine they swarm into a happy birthday bouquet. Here I am, still taking. I'd like to drip like a crocus and offer the dust of me to the fur of a honeybee. May my essence be made sweet, though just a little sour still, like the Japanese knotweed. I drink juice served in its own stock body. I want to possess myself. The fog reminds me, brushes my shoulder, like a duck's gentle and flightless down. It whispers, smell the rye cure, the nitrogen. Pluck a fiddle, head for roasting. The radishes were aching for this rain. There's so much more to grow. I agree and disagree. I have till midnight to achieve all that is left to do. Unsure if I'm dissatisfied with a day's work or a season's yield. I thought there'd be more. In the morning, we'll be too old to complain.
Just one.
Just one.
So, my name is Danial Shariat. I'm one of the contributors for Hawk Whippoorwill. I'll be reading 3 poems today, but all my poems tend to be quite short. So, 2 of them are in reference to some aspect of Iran, where ethnically I am from. So the first poem I decided I would read the poem that is published in the journal. So this is Grandma's Kiwis. In the northern city of Tonkabon, there's a vineyard where my mother was grandmother grows kiwis. They were so juicy, plucked, peelable, eaten, so enjoyably sour. It's been a while, but I'm sure they were. Now when I eat kiwi fruit from the store, not pulled from family vine, I say, next year, Shah Sabah. I've been saying so many years. As a quick author's note for that piece, Tonkabon is the capital of the Muslim region in Iran. It was previously known as Shah Sabah, but the name was changed after the revolution, as the name is in reference to the Shah. The next one is called the hyacinth. I'm aware that the flower is of quite some importance to quite a number of Western poets in the English canon. However, it is of special importance to Iranian culture. The flower, known in Farsi as Sumbul, is one that blooms very early in the spring, and so it is a symbol of the new year and is very important for the Nowruz celebration. So, hyacinth. The name feels clinical, narrow, incomplete. Call it hyacinth and what's called to mind. Burgeoning beauty, sweet scent. But Sumbul, in a desert, Persian snow, it creeps through to reckon a new year, to call upon a new day. In myth, always returning. But now, will it? And the last one is the most recent poem I've written, the final draft of which was done, I think yesterday. No, this morning. I go through many drafts, but it's titled Adagio, which, if you all are familiar with music composition, is when used in that context, is a direction for the performer, meaning in Italian slowly. And in that context, is to tell the performer to play the piece slowly, and in this context, it is for the reader or performer of the poem to read slowly. And the content warning, if that is necessary, the imagery used here is that of self-harm. I am the protagonist of a story I haven't heard. I have only one need, that people read it. I need an arc, a struggle. No one cares when it's easy. Maybe if I bind my hand, my writing would be more endearing. But now the words are the same, it just looks worse. I am the protagonist of a story that seems mundane. Maybe if I blind one eye, my insights would be more perceptive. But now the scar scares, and I can't grasp what's in front of me. I am the character of the story that scares me. Maybe if my foot is shot and I step in blood, my trail will at last be no blade. But now I limp and people hate the mess I make. I am disfigured, mutilated, contorted, and contrived. My eye is gone, my hand is numb, my foot is broken. But maybe, if I keep pushing forward, it would make for an interesting story.
My name is Ben, and I'll just read a short poem. A traveler. In a strange country, there is only one who knows his true name and could turn him in. But she, whose father too was charged with murder, believes in him, convinces him to trust. It is the tropics where they make their tryst. They sip refreshing drinks beside a terraced pool where he is thought to be a tourist. To clear his name and find who killed his pal, in a dark passage he finds hope and will. What once had seemed exotic now seems near, because he wished to be her prisoner.
Amazing.
I'm Philip Nikolaev. I'll help you with it. It's like French Nicolas and then Yev, Nikolaev. Russian, sorry. I'll read two short poems. One I dedicate today to my pal by correspondence of several years, easily 5 or 6 years, Abhay Kumar. Because yesterday we chatted about, as you can tell perhaps by my accent, I'm of Russian extraction, but I've lived in the States for a long time. And I also have a deep bond with India. And I speak Indian also and so on. So yesterday we had dinner and we chatted about I came to India for the first time in 1988 to Kolkata, and it kind of blew my mind. And it occurs to me now that I have actually a poem a juvenile kind of poem that I remember that summarizes some of that. And it's the title poem of my Indian collection, Das Raga, which came out a long time ago, in the mid-90s. So it goes something like this. I haven't recited it for a long time, but this is, so forgive me if I'm a little shaky on some of the lines. But this is my first exposure to India, okay? Well, weeks into it, let's say. just as the lonely, wicked, wild and glad, eyes know and do not know by letting drop in every detail of their daily dread, the flowering and rainfall and mishap of birth. There's a benignness comes about the streets. Well-light eyelashes flutter by like Kali's black, bewildering butterfly, and life is tantra to the marrow, but I do not know myself. The slow and fast, warm intersections squirm with liquid ease, melt away. The gods cannot undo the past, but I'll refrain from feigning expertise. Vague auto rickshaws hooting out of sight and back. I pause to stare at life at these bedraggled corners in the red light night, but I'll refrain from feigning expertise. Past bougainvilleas, samsara's saris float lighter than magic in my tragic dreams. My heart has killed a goat at Kalighat. At nightfall, the world isn't what it seems. The flower shop shut, my beady crushed, I hide in eyes in their daily eyes in their speaking sparkling millions, find mine. But dark differences are less clear, voices more similar, dark darshans finally over. No one can tell I'm near. The flower shop shut, my beady crushed, I hide in sultry shadows. The question of a star shines through the smog. These people understand I'm somewhere, but don't know exactly where. And I couldn't tell them if they asked. The faster beats the heart. So fast, so fast. If you are familiar with the kind of classical Indian form of rag, one of its principles that its tempo doubles at various points. So, like if in a long rag, it can become really fun at the end. It's just my great pleasure, Abhay, to read with you tonight. And this is, he hasn't plugged this book at all, but it's a unique anthology of poems about the capital cities of the world. And it's called Capitals, published by Bloomsbury. And I have two poems in it because I have, a native connection with two capitals. I was born in Moscow, Russia, but I grew up and spent most of my childhood and teenage years in Moldova, which is a tiny country, separate country now, that's slight, like a little sliver of a country between Ukraine and Romania. Its capital is Chisinau, and or in Russian Kishinev, as we used to call it. And so I have a poem about that city here that I grew up in, and it's called Tendency Toward Vagrancy. I've long had what Soviet psychiatrists called a tendency toward vagrancy. At 4, I would run away from home repeatedly for a whole day, alone, or sometimes with an accomplice named Boris, of like age. We knew full well that you can't just do this, but nudge for nudge and wink for wink, would board the trolleybus number 10, I think, buy tickets at 4 kopecks each from our gleanings and savings of the week, stick them into the ticket punch on the wall, watch the Chad fall as you pulled, and ride all across Chisinau in half an hour to get off near that unforgettable restaurant built in the likeness of a huge wine barrel. We peered inside, it was cool. Then we had options. Go and splash in the local artificial lake. I couldn't swim yet. Wander in between along the banks, catching frogs to take home in a glass jar to populate a small construction pond. Why did we always use my shirt to do this? Or go and explore the local flea market, which was not at all safe to do. But even at 4, it's nice to have options. One guy sold what we thought was a gun. We asked him, and he confirmed it. Actually confirmed it by hiding. Those were days of cholera epidemics in Moldova. We'd buy peasant-cooked fodder corn on the cob when we got hungry, haggled with old ladies over pennies. We wouldn't catch the return trolley until sunset. Then it's always the same picture. The wicket creaks open. The landlord's mutant barks through froth. My wet shirt clings. I step out of the dark toward my mother, waiting by the door of our temporary house on Kaluga Street, which was a bit of a dirt road, perhaps still is. She has been crying. She takes me inside. Room and kitchen, no bathroom or running water. The room had a brick stove, the kitchen a dirt floor with mice and sometimes rice, and sometimes grass. And a white washstand. These lines are all that has survived of them. There was great beauty in their squalor. She has been crying, takes me inside. Says she will scold me later. I know it will be soon. First she must call the cops to tell them I've been found. Of course, back then I didn't understand anything. Neither how a poet harms his mother, nor how alienated. Thank you, Marx, for that term. One can be from the start and free in the grip of that greatest paradox of all, a happy Soviet childhood.
Mary, would you like to sit here? Join the table. Oh, I'm good.
Someone's got to do.
This is very different. Yeah, it is. So I'm Mary Buchinger, and I'm also president of the New England Poetry Club, so I'm just going to leave these here if anybody's interested. The New England Poetry Club is like back into being. It kind of went underground for a while, but if you're interested, I'm happy to tell you. So,
Do you need a first edition of John Gilroyd's History of the New England Poetry Club?
do I need one?
Yeah, you might need one.
I have copies. Is this the one?
What,
from the-
photocopies?
I have photocopies.
Okay, because I have the original.
Folks, this is happening right now. This is Facebook Live.
I've seen the original in the archives at Harvard.
I have one
So
that
you
I'm
have
selling
one
it.
too?
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. It's kind of dry.
This is
But, okay, that's good to know.
Poets Hustle. That's
Yeah,
right.
So the club's 100 years old. So there are these things.
My name's Ben Mazer. You can get in touch with me.
I'll ask those.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to read some poems, and one is I think of it as a miracle poem because I submitted this to Hawk Whippoorwill 10 years ago, and it got accepted 10 years later. Things like that don't happen, right?
They considered it very carefully.
So, okay, this is called Old Wasp Nest, and I don't do a lot of concrete poems, but it is in the shape of a wasp nest. Just kind of fun.
Mary, can you hold it up for the folks at home?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
There it is, friends and neighbors.
Conical shape, yes, and it's replicated in, yes, in nicely done. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so Old Wasp Nest. Conical, crisp, suspended from the beech tree. Abandoned? Early spring, sun's warmth, essential and burgeoning. Breeze lined with coolness. Sturdily attached, the nest extends and twirls the gray of the small branches holding it. Raggedy along the edges, flaps coming undone. But still, for being what it is, fibers from dead wood, plant stems mixed with wasp saliva. How tenacious and substantial to be here in April no leaves on the trees anymore or yet. Old mother of aging children. To extricate this nest from its twining and shake, however gently, always, even long after it's sure to be empty, the worry of what might wake. Thank you. Oh, that's really cool. So like I said, I don't do many concrete poems, but I'm going to do this one because I did wasp. So this is Starfish. And I grew up in the Midwest, so like a starfish, I really had no idea. So this poem's about that, like weirdness. It's called The Starfish. I was 5 when I met my first starfish, wrapped in a paper towel in Becky Bublitz's sideboard. 5 pale pink arms and a mouth ringed with spikes. It's still alive, she told me. Don't put your finger too near its center. No sign of life I recognize, yet I fully believe it And then I love that Hawk and Whippoorwill is looking at the relationship of humans and nature. And just the whole, I don't know, I think nature just takes us to such strange places. This is called Stranger. Stranger. I love the forest. How dark it is and bewildering. In you, wolves and mushrooms, spiders, moss, trillium, scat. Branches to climb and to break into kindling. The danger of you is me, searching. Sweep the sky, oh long-needled pine, bow low to my fire weed. Open into a silver glade, where I can savor the respect of tall, inhabited grasses, the nods of turning nomad leaves. And I'll just read one more. It's Ars Poetica, but you've all seen this bird. You know how ravens at the side of the road eating fresh kill, right? There's something really elemental there. So this is called Raven Feeding at the Side of the Road. I know that freedom, the getting deep inside and rummaging, rooting around, the revelation of delicacies, small explosions of rot, and to the need to pause and gaze, even as the open table waits. I look up to see the what's yet to be begot. The stuff and the getting fulfills a hunger of being, of not being the dead at my feet, but a glossy, living thing, eating on the wing.
All right, folks. Who are you? I'm Sassan Tabatabai. I'm going to read you 3 poems, short ones, going with the theme. I'm going to read you one about a fish The one's about stones. The last one's about
Plovers.
fireflies.
Oh,
Alright.
next time.
First one's called uzun burun. Uzun burun is a Persian word we use for, it's a loan word from Turkish, it means long nose. It's the word we use for the sturgeon. The sturgeon is the fish that makes caviar. The caviar that comes from the beluga, and particularly from the Caspian Sea. It's worth, pound for pound, is worth more than gold. It is meant for export and for domestic consumption, only for the social elite. So if a fisherman is caught with it, if the locals are caught with it, you can actually get into trouble. Yeah, you can't have it. So this is uzun burun. Damovan, the mountain, is the highest peak of the Alborz Mountains, which border the Caspian Sea. See how tall Damovan stands, its head held high above the clouds. It is silver-haired even in this green season. The sun reflects off the tangled locks that fall on the mountain's broad, colorless shoulders. Damovan had been like this long before you and I first looked up at its heights. Snow clings to the summit's every rise and fold, like an old man's wrinkled face, lined by the contours of age. Strong northern features, angular nose and sunken eyes that seem to squint under the sun and swell with tears. Tears that slowly drip and at times, with a flashing look, catch a fleeting wave. Soon, quiet streams will roll down the snowy face and rocky bosom through deliberate lines carved long ago. They follow their own ancient roots to a calm, expectant pool, join and gather force before tumbling toward the valley below that lies cradled in shadows. And at the mountain's foot, the Caspian, this giant lake, this gentle sea, awaits the rushing waters to feed its depths. There, hidden from our eyes, suckles the sturgeon, Queen Uzumbu, blessed with the gift of laying golden eggs. Unlike you and me, who watch from afar, her fate lies in the weathered hands of the old fisherman who slowly drags his net, taut with the Caspian's riches, onto the unyielding sand. And with it, the sturgeon is drawn to the edge of her world. She breaks the surface to a place rounded at the edges, and with a silent gasp, pumps her gills with inaccessible air. Suddenly aware of her own weight, she strains to return to the cool depths of home, and lay her golden eggs, which now belong neither to herself nor to the fisherman. This one is Firestones. And the Cardiff in this poem is not Wales. It's Southern California. That's where I go. I was collecting rocks on the Cardiff coast, a testimony to centuries of silt left on the shore, of sediment pressed into stone. Sandstone, shale, tufa, travertine, jasper, flint. There was a stone that knew the sadness of the sea, that saved its secrets. It was pockmarked with holes and lay half buried in sand, eager to save the ocean's spray like tears in its miniature pools. There was a stone that always rolled in place, that rolled round and smooth with each wave, desperately trying to control the tide. There was a stone that showed rings upon rings placed by the sea over the years, that kept time for the Pacific. There were stones that breathed sulfur, that sparked when they touched, unremarkable in luster or shine. They were the lovers of the ocean, firestones, whose sparks were not dampened by salty waves, but they only made sense in pairs. And there was this one, more white, more brilliant, more polished than any stone, but it was once upon a shelf. It needed centuries to become stone. It was a counterfeit firestone. It did not breathe sulfur. It could not make sparks. I traced my steps back along the Cardiff coast, and the stones I returned to the sands. The ocean's secrets would be well kept by the stones. Its tears would be stored in pools, its tides kept in check, its years measured in rings. But love itself I could not leave on the beach. I kept the firestones. John, you're in trouble. And this is a very short one. It's funny, I think firestones have come up. Fireflies have come up. This is called Fireflies. Through the heavy darkness descending on the lawn, fireflies flicker to an undecipherable rhythm of their own making, sending coded messages in soundless Morse, announcing high tide, urging the full moon to force its way through the cleavage of the clouds, praising the perfect rings of Saturn.
And I think you have a last minute addition that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would just add that, this is a journal which is sort of exploring the man-nature relationship. So the first thing I would request you not to use plastic, plastic cups or plastic spoons, anything. That's the first thing we can do. Second thing is, I've been trying to get an anthem for our planet. We all have our national anthems, but our planet does not have one. So
you've been trying to write it.
no, I wrote it in 2008 when I was in Russia, and since then it's been translated into 30 languages, and has been put to music by several eminent musicians, and it was performed recently by the Philharmonic Orchestra. But the idea is to, sort of get a common song for not only for humanity, but also for a song which also includes other species, in the sense a song that's not human-centric or anthropocentric. So
I think that deserves a round of applause.
Maybe one of you could possibly, or each one of you could. So I have this now project which is, it's called Reading Earth Anthem, and people from across the globe, they record this short video, reading the anthem, just to read the poem as you read the poem. And it creates lots of impact, and share it. And I'll read the anthem for you, which I wrote, but there could be other anthems which you could record. And it's our cosmic oasis, cosmic blue pearl, the most beautiful planet in the universe. All the oceans and all the continents, united we stand as flora and fauna. United we stand as species of one earth. Diverse cultures, beliefs, and ways. We are humans. Earth is our home. All the peoples and all the nations, one for all and all for one. United we unfurl the blue marble flag. This is the anthem. Philip has not noted, but this book is dedicated to, this anthology is dedicated to call for a common earth and capital.
What did you say the project is called again?
Earth Anthem. So with that,
All right.